Why wasn't Hungry Burger released in this set?
No matter what, let the game begin. No matter what, we're in the wrestling way. No matter what, we're in this together. No matter what, we'll be friends forever. No matter what.
Hey everyone, welcome to this installment of Duel Sauce, a series dedicated to the history of a children's card game. In this episode, we're going to be talking about a very special set in Yu-Gi-Oh's history, and that's the McDonald's promos. Yes, Mickey D's, the fast food chain where I always love to get 2 spicy McChickens, some fries, and a snack-sized McFlurry. Pure $5 bliss. So when worlds collided in December 20th, 2002 with the YuGiOh and the D, I was very excited to get a Big Mac and some Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Yes, the collaboration was real, and if you got a Mighty Kids / Happy Kids meal, then you got a pack that included 2 Yu-Gi-Oh cards. It makes sense as Yu-Gi-Oh came out back in March of that year and the popularity ran rampant with a variety of cards, shampoos, CDs, and a slew of other merchandise. So, of course, a fast food chain had to get in the action, and it just so happened that the home of the McRib took that mantle that would forever cement a Yu-Gi-Oh set in the minds of Yu-Gi-Oh fans. In Japan, they actually got the set's cards in mainly 3 limited edition packs provided by Shonen Jump magazine, but here in the United States, we had to be given them in greasy sandwich bags. All the cards in the set were original save for 1 card from a tournament pack, and yet they all have this weird magnetism to them because they were tied to a very special McDonald's set, otherwise shortened as MP1. The set comprised of many vanillas, non-effect monsters except for 1 effect monster and 1 spell card. None of the cards were meta viable and were simply printed for aesthetic reasons. In the OCG, they got many small sets compared to the TCG's larger sets, and thus we ended up getting less cards in total. There are still plenty of OCG exclusive cards that I wish got printed here, even if they're not good for anime reasons or otherwise. Cyber Commander, Fiend Kraken, Ancient Jar, Doriado, and Pot the Trick are just some of them. It makes complete sense why we wouldn't get a slew of low-level vanillas, as we already got a set filled with them. The Legend of the Blue Eyes White Dragon. And at that point, they were DOA because why would anyone use King Fog? They make very little impact apart from Japanese Yu-Gi-Oh's early beginnings, like when Hitatsumi Giant was meta, which we'll get to that eventually. But the TCG already had cards like La Jin and Dark Elf a few months later, so there was no real reason to release many lame monsters aside from special promos and packs now and again, which would be a trend for years to come. For example, Griffor was released in the TCG and Yu-Gi-Oh's Legendary decks in 2015, despite its initial OCG release being in 1999. I mean, who doesn't like Griffor? Look at him! And MP1 was released at the end of 2002, which already saw the release of Janjo and a ton of other powerful cards heading into the 2003 era. Though that's not to say Konami didn't want to release vanillas all around, as many sets like Blue Eyes and Spell Ruler had secret rare slots specified towards Trihorn Dragon and Serpent Knight Dragon respectively. So again, I'm unsure why MP1 went with the cards it did aside from aesthetic reasons and nothing else, but hey. They sure are appealing, at least most of them, personally anyways. It's a shame they didn't offer better cards like Mechanical Chaser or Mirror Force or Hungry Burger, but hey, what are you gonna do? The set is comprised of 15 cards with 2 ultra rares, 3 super rares, and 10 commons, meaning of your 2 card pack, you had not a bad chance of getting that nice shiny card to put by your greasy mini corn dogs if you lived in Richmond, Virginia at the time. With that said, let's take a look at the cards.
Wait, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, because that helps me upload more videos and know that you like content like this.
Going off of set number, let's start from the top with MP1-15, Dark Piercing Light. The only spell card and only back row card for that matter in the set. This card is a worse Swords of Revealing Light, as yes, it does flip your opponent's monster's face up, but it doesn't give you that 3-turn protection Sword does. which that's a bizarre choice for a card considering swords came out very early in the TCG. Maybe if it negated effects it would be better, or House of Adhesive Tape / Eat Bagoon effects where it destroys weak monsters, but even in GOAT format standards we would get Seal of the Ancients in 2004, which would let you look at your opponent's face down cards, back row and all, without activating effects. Dark Piercing Light would set the standard for the rest of McDonald's promos, so sit tight. Now we jump into the monsters with Turtle Bird. It's a turtle and a bird. Wild. 6 stars and 1900 attack. Not very good, needless to say. This card would eventually get an upgraded version of Winged Tortoise where it actually has an effect. Ushi Oni, or more properly translated as Cattle Demon, is a genie-like Lojin, but worse. He's another 6-star monster with weird stats at 2150 attack and 1950 defense, which is entering Reaper territories. I don't know why Konami for a decent chunk of time had monsters with weird stats, but I guess you could blame Kazuki Takahashi for putting weird stat monsters in the manga in the first place. Then there's Fairy's Gift, which, despite its name, is not a fairy type. At least this card has 4 stars and 1400 attack, so that's something going for it. Flying Penguin continues the flying creatures theme, but swap out a turtle for a penguin. With this, Penguin Knight and Penguin Soldier, you got yourself a makeshift penguin deck. It wouldn't be a very good deck, but hey, you got one. Flypay would wind up on the artwork for Toon Kingdom, so perhaps this guy met an unfortunate fate in Toon World. Another weak vanilla appears in 3-legged zombies, who most people might know better as Unizombie, one of the best zombie supports in the entire game. Confusingly, this card art only shows 2 legs, which would mean I don't even want to think about it. Yamadron might be my favorite card art in the set, being a fire dragon that is a reminiscent of the Bone Pillars from Castlevania. Unfortunately, more bad stats make this another bad card. However, in theory, you could make a cheeky fire dragon deck with Flute of Summoning Dragon and Molten Destruction. In theory. Interestingly, this card and a few others got a ritual card in the video games. Yamadron's is Yamadron Ritual with some fancy card art. Not to be confused with a ritual spell, these were different. I wonder why they went this direction with some monsters, maybe just make some of them seem more cooler or more playable, I don't know, but at least Yamadron has a distinct privilege to being the first fire dragon in the game, predating manga Ryuran in the OCG. And once again, here's another bad monster, Megasonic Eye. This one I particularly remember having. He's a machine, but it's hard to see how the way he looks. He looks more like a fiend than anything else. Stuffed Animal is a fun one if not just for the artwork. Again, with typing though, this one is a warrior when he's definitely more of a beast or fiend. You can see where Frightfurs got their origins from. Stuffed Animal is also the only card in the set to have been released prior in Tournament Pack 2. Over halfway there, we got to the super rares. Yeah, we got Takraminos, who has 100 more attack than Fairy's Gift. With a similar appearance to Amphibian Beast, it's nice to finally get to have a higher rarity card despite this card not being good, because obviously we already had 7-colored fish released by this point, and even Great White had 100 more attack than Tacky. Moving on, remember Duke Devlin? Here's Yoronzo, straight out of Dungeon Dice Monsters, and yeah, that's about it. Now let's talk about Frog the Jam. He's a silly bugger, isn't he? It's a slime with the head of a frog, its flavor text says, and it would gain its peak popularity after the release of Totally Awesome, who used Frog the Jam, or in some cases Psychic Kappa, for its Xyz material. Much like other cards with improper English names like Sky Scout or Black Dragon's Chick, Frog the Jam's naming was wrong. Eventually he would get renamed properly to Slime Toad, fitting him back into the frog archetype, but upon release, yeah, he was as terrible as his croaking. To the last 3 here, with not only another super rare, but the set's only effect monster, Goddess of Whim. Toss a coin, call it, and if you call it right, double her attack or half it if you call it wrong. The issue here is that her base attack is only 950, meaning her max attack with this effect is only 1900. Whim should have had no less than 1200, so she could beat over a Jiraigumo at least. The last 2 cards in the set are both ultra rares, starting with Cosmo Queen. Aside from her retrain as Cosmo Brain eventually, Queen is rather interesting by herself. Like Yamadron, she has a ritual spell in the game called Cosmo Queen's Prayer, or as this picture says, Cosmo Queen. In the video game Falsebound Kingdom, she is a fusion monster with a combination of Dark Elf and Mystical Elf, which is a really cool pairing. Her release really dethroned Dark Magician as the ultimate wizard in terms of attack and defense with her powerful 2900 2450 stats. Attack-wise, she is by far the most powerful card in the set, only being blocked by one other card. And that card would be the other ultra rare and final card to MP1, Millennium Shield. This card is interesting because it looks like a Millennium item, the superpowered trinkets from the Yu-Gi-Oh manga anime. Even though it's not from any supplemental material, it, alongside Sengenjin, have the Millennium item similarity, as well as their own ritual card with its Labyrinth Wall stats of no attack and 3000 defense. This being called a shield was right. It can be searched by reinforcements or summoned by Last Will or a giant rat. The shield itself would meet an unfortunate fate via Shield Crush, and really, that's all I can say about this card. It's full of flavor and can protect you from Cosmo Queen, but that's about it. So that's the Yu-Gi-Oh! McDonald's promos for you. There was a second set released in the GX era with some cool looking cards like Meteor Dragon, Moon Envoy, Kaiser Dragon, and Aqua Dragon, but I really wanted to keep this episode of Duel Sauce focused on the set most people remember and honestly, just how bad it is. Even if this set came out in March 2002, the set would be bad. Maybe Goddess of Whim would have been a little spice, although that would have been it. Even when the Labyrinth Wall hit the scene with this incredibly high defense, it made zero impact and the 13 vanillas were too weak to have anything done remotely useful. This set was purely for aesthetic reasons, to finally have a cool looking fire dragon or a flying penguin in the game, because I guess they weren't allowed to release any of the cool stuff like Gemini Elf. A lot of the cards would eventually get reprinted in Legendary Collection Yugi's World in 2012. However, if it wasn't for these McDonald's promos being released when they were, no one would remember nor care about cards like Yoranzo, Stuffed Animal, or Cosmo Queen. But the fact is they did, and what else can you do but love it like a Royale with cheese?